Can I just suggest that the list that the commissioner, I appreciate the answer. I had asked the question. I know she's reading a list. It's a long list and we all did get it in writing today.
Okay, but we're gonna have to figure out her audio anyways, because we're not getting we're getting every other word, but thank you for that. Okay, Dante, that question came from Senator Kushner and she said she's all set with that, but we still aren't hearing you.
Okay, I'm going to turn off my I'm going to turn off my camera for 1 second while IT fixes this.
Okay, now speak, Dante, and see if we can hear you.
Yep, give me 1 second. I had to move out of my seat.
We can hear you. Yes,
you can. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so number one was a list, and as Senator Kushner said, you guys have that and can go through that. Question two was basically of the, you had said how many people that have non-fraud overpayments established, what the total is that the group owes. What we did for you is we broke down a few things. So we have, the math wasn't as simple as it looked. So there was 24,050 non-fraud overpayments that had been established thus far. We had told you at the last meeting, 15,120 were waived or repaid. And so you had asked how many, what's the total the group owes? There's actually 7,239 people that have outstanding non-fraud overpayment balances, and that totals 22 million and change. We broke down for you the number of people that have non-fraud overpayments versus the number of cases. Okay, shutting down this and moving over.
I think we lost the commissioner.
I think she's trying, there she is.
All right, go ahead.
Reminiscent of our fire drill. So what we have is number of people with non-fraud overpayments, 21,303. Number of people with non-fraud overpayments who made at least one payment, 15,120. The number of people with non-fraud overpayments who have made no payments at all, 6,183. The number of people with non-fraud overpayments whose balances are now zero. So whether it's that they've been waived or liquidated, meaning paid in full, is 14,064. And so therefore the number of people with a balance remaining on a non-fraud is 7,239. And as I had said at the beginning, that's 22 million and change.
Okay. Any questions from anybody? Next question.
Number three was how many of our employees are eligible?
I'm sorry, I was trying to ask a question, but I couldn't get my hand up quickly enough. There it is.
Okay, go ahead, Julie.
I appreciate this. I know, Commissioner, that this information was difficult to obtain. I still have some questions about it. And one, it relates to the answer of the number of people who had their payment waived or repaid was 15,120. And then below it says the number of people who've made at least one repayment is 15,120. I just wondered, that didn't make sense to me. And that was my first question.
Okay, so I think because what we're talking about is the actual claims versus the claimants. So there are more claims than there are claimants because some claimants have more than one overpayment. Is that helpful?
No, I understand that, but it's still confusing to me because that number seems to be the same. The number of people that made is it just a coincidence that the number of people that made at least one repayment is the same as the number of people who were either waived or repaid above? Or is there something, it almost appeared to me that that one payment answer might relate to those that were waived as well.
So because in the way that we do our reporting, it's actually through one of our reports, it's called recovered. And that's the way US DOL does this. And we tried to put it into terms that you guys were asking about. So recovered is those that have repaid or those that have been waived of the obligation of repaying. All goes under our reporting for our 327 report, the US federal report, as recovered.
Okay. And so I think the information is still a little confusing. And then you had people who made no repayments was 6,183. So that looks like those two numbers total the 21,303. And I guess what's confusing to me is, what if you haven't completely made your repayment? Which group do you fall into, or where's that number?
So the at least one repayment, is that what you're
Right, but
saying? If you haven't done the full.
Let's say you made one repayment, but you haven't made the full. Oh, so you fall in that first group, and then no repayments.
Right.
That's the remaining group. So basically that 6,000 is the remaining group. And I understand now, but my other question is there a way to determine, to break out those that have been recovered? How many of those were waivers and how many of those were through repayment? And if you have the repayment group, how much does that total, that dollar amount associated with those that are actually repaying, not waived?
Okay, so I'm going to try to start, and then I'm going to ask Daryl to jump in if he has more. So if you take the large group of the 15,120, that's claimants.
Yep.
That includes a subset within that of 4,179 waiver claimants who were approved for a waiver. And those 179 claimants equates to 4,179 claimants who have been approved for waivers equates to 4,225 claims. Now, I don't have the dollar amount that you just asked for. Daryl, do you have more on that?
Yes, Commissioner. So for waived recovery of non-fraud overpayments, the 4,225 decisions equates to $16,692,235.
So we can back that out of the 28.9 million of recovered. Because the 15,120. Go ahead.
Let's see. The other group are the ones that have paid their non-fraud overpayment in full. We term it liquidated, and that was over 9,000 people, 9,885. That was 7.3 million.
Okay, that's what I was asking. And we know there's still a 22 million outstanding. And then my last question, if I'm allowed, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
My last question is, I know you reported in other meetings that you have not yet done an audit of the PUA recipients. I believe it was PUA, that the independent contractors who received unemployment, even though they traditionally wouldn't. And I believe you said you weren't going to start that audit until the modernization system is up and running in July, and that you got the waiver for that. Did I have that right? And And are there any other groups of claims that have not yet been audited?
Yeah, so of the programs that we are currently able to audit, including regular and FPUC and some others of the federal, of those, we are not done, right? We've only have a snapshot in time. So these numbers that you have are as of February 28th. And we still, that's where I was talking last time, I think it was this meeting, about like hits, or maybe that was your labor meeting, about hits or flags, we were starting to call them, right? So we know that we have like 100,000 flags on claims right now that still need to be audited to see if in fact those flags are correctly indicating an overpayment. So we're still going through the initial mass group. And in addition to that, because the PUA system was built outside of our regular system, which is the only way it could be done, and it's not tied and incorporated fully, once we do launch Reemploy Connecticut on July 5th, we will then have the ability to begin the establishment of those. And that was USDOL gave us, a green light on that process.
And do you have a rough idea, a rough count of how many people received PUA?
I don't have it in front of me because I wasn't planning on that. I do know, we know the dollar amount. Daryl, do you recall off the top of your head?
No, Commissioner, I'm sorry, I don't.
Yeah,
If you
sorry,
could get-
Senator, I wasn't prepared for that question.
I wasn't thinking about that question until you started talking. If you could get us that, I think that would be helpful to, so we know the scheme of, like the sort of the magnitude of these things. That would be helpful.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you. That's all my questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Next question.
Okay, next question. You had asked how many of our employees are eligible to retire based on age and years of service, regardless of whether or not we think they will or they would have any penalties. That is 236 of our employees are eligible to retire. We gave you a breakdown document that goes, it's very thorough about when that would be effective, and we broke it down by month.
Thank you. Next question.
This is going to be a hard one this way, but you asked about the 30 million carry forward, and Representative Walker wanted a very detailed breakdown of how that would be spent, in what units, with how many employees and what type of employees, and we have provided you that on a spreadsheet.
So I have a couple of questions off the spreadsheet that you had.
Sure.
You are adding 204 full-time employees, right? That are going to go forward. So you're using carry forward dollars for out year expenses, essentially, right?
I cannot substantiate that because I'm trying to process what you're saying. Where are you getting the numbers?
If you look at the overall anticipated staffing by unit, and then you go down to the number of permanent full-time employees, it says 204 full-time employees. And then it says temporary durational full-time employees, 180. So the temporary and durational employees are people that are going to be covered relative to the budget, but will be done after the 30 million is gone. But you have included 204 permanent employees. And I'm curious, is that 204 or is it 44 that are full-time employees that are going to be ongoing? I'm trying to figure out, because you have them both on the bottom.
So the overall anticipated staffing by unit, that column, that's
I
representative.
don't care about that. I want to go to the bottom line. Just go to the bottom line. Permanent full-time employees.
Senator, I'm doing my very best to try to answer your
I
question.
know. Let's just go to the bottom. I just need to know that the bottom number says permanent full-time employees. So it says 204. You see that?
I see it. Yep. All but 44 of those are will be federally funded. The reason I was trying to explain what the columns represent is because it's only the carry forward funded column that is the 30 million. The rest are being paid for by our federal funding.
Okay, so 44 full-time employees you're anticipating those will be permanent full-time employees that we're paying for, that the state is paying for.
They are, yes, permanent full-time employees. They are assigned to those units, and the carry forward will be utilized
And what will
for
be-
them.
Okay, thank you for that. And what will be used in 24, 25, 26, 27, 28?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think that is a very significant policy question for us to be able to have the contact center, to be able to address the backlogs in the units that are designated here. This is the funding through FY23 sustainability and what the decisions are made, whether or not they become part of the current services in years forward or not, is certainly a discussion that should be had.
So if we cut out 44 employees because we don't want to incur out-year expenses, that is a possibility here.
I don't think I would look at it that way, because you have to also look at the fact that if you're going to maintain a contact center and other things, then you're going to have to look at those which are larger numbers.
Right.
So that's how we're looking at it.
Right, right. But as the people here, all of us here have to take care of out-year expenses. Many of these agencies have out-year expenses that are not even being considered. We're up to hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in out-year expenses. And if we can't sustain this, then we shouldn't put it in. But
So the answer that I'd like to provide is if the legislature agrees with the concept of continuing a consumer contact center moving forward beyond FY23, and if there is a desire to address the significant backlog of overpayments and appeals that will continue beyond 23, then there should be additional conversations about sustainability of this particular funding.
yeah, there isn't a sustainability of this particular funding. But next question 5, please.
Question 5 is there was Representative Walker was asking about the 2.19 million ARPA funding. The reason that was not showing up in there is because it was already in the previous FY23 approved. So we gave you a screenshot of that from the previous budget, and we attached, I don't know what else you'd like to know about that.
I don't know what that means. You gave us a screenshot of ARPA in what document?
In the Word document with the answers that we provided under question 5. She asked about 2.19 million in ARPA. I, at the time, was looking at the current budget book, which didn't have that. So what we did is we found and located that it was from the last budget book, and we did a screenshot of the funding she was asking about, and it's spelled out by line item for the different ARPA.
The governor's last budget book?
Senator, I don't know what else to do but to show it to you right here if you'd like.
I see that. I see that. Thank you. Thank you. I'm trying to figure out which budget book. Was it the governor's budget book that came out that was a recommendation to us and we didn't take it? Was it the budget that passed in the General Assembly? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
So I'm going to ask Chris Levine, my CFO, who I believe is on here. Where did you take the screenshot from exactly, Chris?
Yeah, it's from
It was the OFA budget book.
yes, it's the OFA budget book from last session. So it's the final 2022-23 budget identified this.
So
Right. I'll go back and look at it. I don't, because we have an outline of all the ARPA dollars and this doesn't show up on the ARPA dollars.
right.
We'll go back and look at it.
That's why when Representative Walker continued to ask about 2.19 at the last meeting, I was perplexed. And so we went back and found that she had to have been looking at the OFA budget book from last year.
The next question.
Question number 6, you asked about the number of pending unemployment insurance appeals and backlog. We've provided you with a couple different indicators in order to align with what I shared at the last appropriations meeting. We put in the January numbers, and we've concluded February with 17,846 appeals in our lower level referee division. That is the pending caseload. And question number 7 was tied to that. We gave you the number of 490 appeals as a pending backlog in the higher authority, the Board of Review.
Thank you. Next question.
I have no others.
Okay, are there any questions that people have for the commissioner? Senator Kushner?
Yes, I just wanted to ask you, in terms of that appeals number, the numbers that you just gave us on appeals, do those include the appeal that people have filed for a waiver of the overpayments?
I do not believe, Daryl, do they? This is that,
Yes, they're all inclusive, and
okay.
really, you can't just appeal a waiver. You're appealing the non-fraud decision
Overpayment.
along with the waiver. Yes, yes, Senator.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you, Commissioner. Taylor? Who do we have up next?
We have DECD, but I believe they're not on until for another 20 minutes.
Okay, so we can let the agency go.
Yeah. They're trickling out. I think that's almost everybody.
So I just wanted to make sure, let me see, that people understand that on the budget going forward, the budget that the chairs will report on are only the general fund, only the general fund. And right now, the governor spent almost $800 million between ARPA, carry forward, and an increase in the general fund relative to a increase in the spending cap because of the inflationary numbers. And we are at the spending cap. There is no room. There's $2 million, give or take, might be less than that. And so when you're reporting out on the budget, just report out on the general fund. And they have spent every dime of the ARPA, which we're not sure if we're going to have, because that all depends on what finance does with the governor's recommendation. And they spent all 500 million that they moved over, plus the 217 million that was left. And they spent all the carry forward dollars that they anticipated, not what we had when they did the budget, but what they anticipated to have for this year, which includes the FMAP 10%, which was pushed out. So right now, as it is, we are at the max in spending on all 3 fronts. We will have to cut things from the governor's budget if we have any requests to be made. So, I mean, I just wanted to make sure that people understand where we are. So Representative Walker and I are asking the chairs to, and many of the expenditures have out year costs, which we're going to have to cover. And significant out year costs, significant out year costs. So just be understanding relative to that, but we're just doing what we're reporting on is 3 different pots of money in 3 different mechanisms. The first one will be the appropriations budget, which is the general fund appropriations, general fund appropriations. So look at that. That's all we're going to talk about relative to this. Okay, just so people understand that. And if you want to take 15 minutes to recess, that would be fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Hey, Taylor,
Hi,
Are we-
Senator.
are we ready? I see a couple of DECD people.
I don't think we're fully ready, but they're trickling in.
Hi, everyone. Just waiting on the commissioner and Kyle. They're joining momentarily.
All right, Maribel, thank you.
How are you? How are
Good,
you?
how are you?
Well, thank you.
Here's Kyle.
Revise their proposal to do that. There's going to be
Oh, goodness.
Sorry if you hear the baby in the background. She's playing downstairs.
We don't mind babies. They're nicer than most people we know.
Hopefully dogs too.
Huh?
Hopefully dogs too, because my dog always has something to say here and there.
Yeah, it depends on her mood.
Hi, Commissioner, how are you?
Hi, good
I see
afternoon.
I see you're not in your car today.
That's right. I'm switching. I'm keeping everyone guessing here. I'm in the 450 Columbus office today with most of the team, actually.
Very good. So Commissioner, why don't we head right into it? Everybody ready? So we had some questions and I see that you provided us with some written documentation. If
Yep.
you want to hit the highlights of that documentation?
Yeah, happy to do so. And if it's all right, I'll share my screen, Senator, if that's good, just very briefly.
Yep, Taylor, can they share their screen? There you go.
So can everyone see? So the
Yep.
first question was around the MBRF, the Minority Business Loan Program. Where is it going? So one of the where the funds going. So one of the PDFs you all have is from HEDCO, and we broke it down. The left side of the screen is MBRF loans, the 6.3 million, and then the right side is the 5 million of grants. So you can see it here by town, both by count and then total loan amount in terms of geography. So, you know, I don't need to spend a lot of time describing it, but just quickly on the left, you'll see the majority of the funds for the HEDCO loan program. Hartford has 25 loans, and then New Haven has 28 loans. Those are the two biggest recipients, but there's a fair amount of diversity around the state in terms of geographies here.
Very good. Anybody have any questions for that? Representative Gibson?
Thank you, Senator. Hi, Commissioner. How you doing?
Good to see you, Representative. Excellent. Thank you.
Good. And thank you for providing this information. Just a couple quick observations, some questions. So when it goes to loans, I see like the two biggest is Hartford and New Haven. They're almost the same, 25 and 28, right?
Yes, but the balance is different. But yes, the exactly.
Yep. Oh yeah, so the balance is way different. I see that. But when it comes to grants, out of all the towns, Hartford's is way more at 106 with over 1 million. The next, and then if you compare the loans again to the grants, say with New Haven is 36. Why did Hartford get so many more? Do you know?
Yeah, I don't know. Some of this, and this was during COVID, not that first or second month, but in that third month, and then a bit beyond. A lot of this just depended on how the word got out and where the demand was, who was applying at the time. We tried to get the word out as broadly as we could at DECD, and I know HEDCO did as well, and a lot of their partners. But I think what they saw is just where the demand came back, and then they were servicing that demand. I believe it was on a first come, first served basis. And then we did a little bit more of this. There was 2 different tranches, but it really was a function of who was applying and when they applied.
So do you think it's just that the folks in Hartford did a better job of getting the word out? I mean, that's a big difference compared to like all the major cities. And like, again, I stuck out New Haven because when you compare the loans to the grants.
Yeah, the way I think about this a couple different ways, Representative. So just round numbers, there were 485 loans, and Hartford had, if we want to look at that, 106. So that's a little north of 20% of them. And then, and I'm on the right, sorry, the COVID relief loans. I know I'm moving around a lot on the sheet. And then in terms of the traditional MBRF loans, 108 total. Hartford was 25 of them. So, they're around, still again, close to 23-24%. So the percentages is right. It seems like there's a lot more dispersion where there's a lot of towns that got 1 to 3 loans, and Hartford just sticks out but they're still in that 20 to 25% range for both.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it's hard to really tell why, but it's just an observation. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Excellent question.
Next question, Commissioner, or the next?
Sure. Yeah. Sorry, my computer's running a little low, so if I might need to jump on Kyle's here. But the next thing we did is we provided the full DECD annual report. There were some questions last time. Oh, sorry. Before I get to that, HEDCO has 12 employees. That was a question that came up. So that's
and those 12 employees are paid by HEDCO, or are they state of Connecticut employees?
They are HEDCO employees.
Okay, thank you.
There were some questions last time, Senator Austin, from the group on DCD programs, performance of those programs. So in our annual report, which we've been doing for a while now, we do have a full list of who's getting money and, where possible, kind of relevant metrics on the success of those programs and the return, if you will, on those programs. So there's a full 10 years of analysis. So if there are follow-up questions on that report or specific programs or specific companies, happy to take that.
Next.
The second question was metrics, per Liz Shapiro. So we're working on this. We're going to be providing the full detail. And Senator, I know yourself and I, Rep. Walker spoke the other day. So expect a follow up on this. But they've been hard at work with the grant program there, and we'll come back on that.
So before you move on that, I just want people to know that eventually the goal is to use metrics on all of our grants relative to arts and humanities. I don't believe that we'll have enough time this session to pull this data over and to make decisions based on metrics, mostly because I believe we would need to hold a public hearing and talk to and have something for the arts and cultural groups. And so that's the ultimate goal, because for years we've been putting in line items relative to different groups, and in some cases, those line items may have been appropriate when they first went in, but they may not any longer be appropriate. And we really need to come up with a way that we can explain how these grants are being given out. So just want people to be prepared for that, but I don't believe we'll have time this short session to do this. Thank you, Commissioner.
Great. The third question was around CIF, a summary of the initiative. This was passed in legislation last year, the creation of a Community Investment Fund 2030 board, which DECD will administer, $175 million in bonding each year starting this July 1st of 2022. 21 members on the board, 10 appointees from the legislature, 11 who are appointees of the executive branch or other officials that are in their ex officio capacity or in their capacity in their role, like the DCD commissioner. And DCD will be the administrator of the CIF. Just a quick note here before I get into the duties. We are in the final round of interviews for the administrator that will work at DECD. That's important because we want to make sure that we get the process, the applications underway, so we all can collectively hit the ground running by that July 1st, 2022 date. So stay tuned, but we hope this month to have that individual finalized and on board. I'm not going to read the powers and duties of the CIF board. This is
We can read them.
I was going to say, if folks have questions, they can let us know. But I expect this to be a very significant process and significant economic development tool. In the state, in particular, in communities that need the investment in a significant way. So,
Before we go on, we have a couple questions, Commissioner.
Sure.
Representative Gibson, followed by Senator Hartley.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, Mr. Commissioner, just a couple quick questions. You may not have the information now, or maybe you can tell me where to get it, or you can send it to me later. But the appointees to the CIF board, can we find out their names and who they are?
Yeah, I believe those are all known. So we should do that as a follow-up. There was an initial meeting that we had, and I believe there was almost perfect attendance there. So we can handle that as a follow-up, Representative.
Appreciate that. And how about the minutes from that meeting?
Same.
Okay. And let's see. When will the online applications be available?
So a date has not been determined for that, but my hope is sometime between now and that July 1st date, certainly before that July 1st date. The process as I view it right now is we're going to hire an administrator. That's, again, we hope to have that this month. The process needs to be generated, an application needs to be generated, and then the CIF board needs to approve that process and that application to make sure that is consistent with what they want to see. So we'll work with Speaker Ritter and President of the Senate Looney on that and the rest of the board. So I believe we will have a meeting. I'm not sure if it's going to be in April or May, but at that point in time to confirm that that's the process and that's the application. And then at that point, we'll be able to put the applications out to those and ask for the applications to come back post July 1.
I'm sorry, Senator, my last question. How will municipalities know when these applications are available?
So we're going to, so DECD's job with this administrator and with the legislature, it's going to be our goal to get, once there is a process and a timeline out there, we're going to need to get the word out using our normal channels, email, otherwise social media, et cetera, using folks like CCM and others to get the word out.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Representative. Senator Hartley, followed by Representative Wilson.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Chair and Commissioner. Just a continuation of the comments from your previous discussion here. Is it really realistic that we're talking beginning July 1? I mean, just listening to the description that you just walked through and getting the sense, from, folks who are really having to stand this up. Are we really talking July 1? And the other side of it is, there's a lot of pent up interest in this, in particularly where cities are, and also recognizing that, urban centers are crucial as we, try to bring this economy back online. So yeah. The July 1 looks very elusive to me.
Well, so I think the short direct answer to your question is yes, I think July 1 is realistic, but we should talk about the process. So let's assume applications are coming to the CIF board in and around that time, Senator Hartley. The question for that board is the board, that will be the first time that board is going through the process and figuring out what does the board believe should be funded versus what shouldn't be funded. And then at that point in time, there's a referral to the governor's office to be put on a bond commission agenda. So I think July 1 is realistic on or about. Then the question is, at what point are those funds going to truly hit the street, given the process that the CIF board needs to go through? I think that is a question, and hopefully we'll have more clarity on that after the next CIF board meeting. But I do believe July 1 is the date we can hit.
Well, thank you. I'm optimistic. I mean, I'm hoping, but yeah.
Listen, we're going to be running really fast here, and I think we're all aligned to try to make sure that date is hit. Like, I think the question from there is just the process and the timing after those applications are received. What does that look like? And we're all going to be, this is the first time for all of us as we do this. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hartley. Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Commissioner, for coming in today. Have all the appointees been placed, or are there still appointments to be made?
On CIF, we'll need to, assuming that's your question, Representative, we'll need to
Yes.
confirm who is on the board and who is in attendance in that last meeting. So that will be a follow-up for us.
Okay, and is it dedicated to PIC ratings? Is that correct?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what PIC ratings are.
Okay. All right. Well, let's skip that one because
Kyle's telling me in my ear we will follow up on that. So that's not something I'm familiar with right now.
okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Any other questions, Representative Wilson?
No, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm all set.
All right. Are there any other questions from colleagues? Thank you very much, Commissioner. We have a lot of work to do because, as you know, the governor's budget is not anything more than a document presented to us for consideration. And we have a number of legislative priorities that will be included in the budget, which means that we are going to be looking at some of what the governor put in his document. And we are probably going to be making some significant changes. We'll let you all know as soon as we make those changes.
All right. Well, appreciate you having us here, and we will all the follow-ups around CIF. We'll get back to this group as soon as possible.
Thank you, Taylor. Can you say what we have? Any more meetings tonight?
Oh, no, we are done tonight.
Thank you very much, Taylor. I like that. I saw only 2 or 3 left in my calendar for the rest of the day today, but I'm very happy to see that. What do we have tomorrow?
Let me take a peek. So tomorrow we're clear tomorrow.
Well, so again, I'm telling everybody to remember that we all have to think very clearly about what we're doing, and it'll be the general fund that is being reported out for appropriations. Just keep that in mind. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a nice night.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good night.
Bye.